wonderful. Three really fantastic presentations, very diverse perspectives, really, really wonderful. All right, so we're now going to move into a question and answer period for a bit of time. So I have gathered some questions. You can still type in questions. I will try to keep an eye on it. But two things I'd like to start with. One is that there were a couple of questions asking, where can we go to learn more about Jainism? Where can we go to get more information about all this that we're hearing about? And so just a few resources to mention: Arihanta Institute, that is one of the co-organizers and is graciously hosting this entire thing on the webinar, their tech expertise. They have a wonderful program with numerous classes that cover a lot of this. I actually taught a class on veganism and ahiṃsā for them as well. The panelists on the first panel, all three are professors at Arihanta Academy. So that's a great resource to go and learn more. There's also the veganjain.org website, and Gina Shah is here as one of our co-organizers. And that is her website, and they have a lot of wonderful information on there, as well as the Jain Vegan Initiative, another great resource. So there's a lot of wonderful resources out there. I think they're in the question and answer, but just wanted to mention that. And also tomorrow, our second panel is called A Vision for the Future, Advancing Ahimsa in Practice. And we're going to hear more from all of these entities and organizations and institutions about how we can learn more, take things further. So if you can, be sure to come to that presentation tomorrow. I'll also mention that all of the weekend, the entire conference is being recorded. That is another question that keeps coming up. So we will be recording all these sessions. We'll break them into the different panels and keynotes, and they will be available on Arihanta Institute's website, as well as Compassionate Living's YouTube page. We'll put it on, that's my organization, Compassionate Living. We'll put it on our YouTube page. So they'll be available in numerous different places. So just to answer those couple of questions that keep coming up. And so I've got a couple questions here. Let me see. This one I just wanted to address kind of right away, because I think that there's variations of this that we sometimes hear, and I just want to address it. And I'll just read. The question said, one thing I've heard by some folks is that if milk is not consumed or extracted from the cow, it turns into poison and can lead to the cow's death. Thus, after having a calf, after the calf is done drinking the milk from its mother, it is indeed good to extract or consume the milk. Is this true? And there are other versions of this, like that, you know, she would be in pain if we didn't milk her, things like that. I remember my grandmother telling me that if we didn't milk the cow, she would be in pain. And I'll just say very quickly, cows are not like they're very similar to, they're exactly the same as all other female animals, humans included. And, our milk is for the babies. Once the babies have suckled, then, that it does not turn into poison. And also she would not be in pain if the babies take the milk, just the normal amount of milk that they take. So it's because we take the babies away from them that they would need to be milked by machines. So just to kind of clear that up, and if anyone on the panel would like to talk about this further, is there anyone that would like to address this? Mamta, Shalin, Pratik? Shalin?
Yeah, sure. No, I agree with you, Hope. I think all mammals produce milk just enough for their babies, but they can also, there's kind of natural ways to increase production by increasing demand, and that's what so if humans are milking the cow, then it's producing, it's increasing demand, which then the cow produces more milk, and then if you stop taking the milk, then it takes some time for it to readjust, right? So it's the human intervention that's causing it, but it's not something that we need to do to cows to help them be without pain.
All right, wonderful. And actually, Shellen, I have a question while you're on this, and I would love to know that at Love and Arms, at your sanctuary, do you have a story of a dairy cow that you have rescued? Maybe some kind of a story around what happens to those cows in the dairy industry that's a personal story from your sanctuary?
Sure. Yeah, there's actually a mom, Devi, who had birth of a baby cow the day before we rescued her. And Lakshmi is also there with us at the sanctuary. And so we actually got to see Devi is a Holstein cow, which are purposefully bred for milk, the highest amount of milk production. And she gave birth to a beautiful baby girl, Lakshmi. And we got to see that there was just enough milk for Lakshmi because no one else was extracting the milk and removing her baby away from her. And as Lakshmi grew, she suckled for the time that she needed, and then she she eventually grew out of that and was consuming grass on her own. And it's a beautiful thing to be able to see mom and daughter together and knowing that they will never be exploited or used for their milk or any other part of their body.
Thank you. All right. Well, let's see. I feel I really want to address this one. Andrew Baer just brought in a question that I think we all struggle with, and it's kind of long. I'll read just parts of it. I live with what might be called moral injury, moral distress on a daily basis. I see clearly how my use of fossil fuels and their emissions are contributing to the climate crisis, the destruction of our planet's life and support systems, and the mass extinction crisis. I can really feel the liberating ways of the ascetic Jain tradition, but I'm married, have responsibilities to family. I've decarbonized my home, done things in that direction, but I'm still left with distress with the way to continue to participate in systems of ahiṃsā, of harm. Any guidance? Yeah, I feel that daily as well. I think a lot of us that become sensitive to these issues when we are learning about veganism, learning about our harm to this planet and to the animals, we certainly can feel that. So yeah, I think it's a good thing to address. And I want to see if maybe Mamta or Pratik have any thoughts on that. Nirva, if you're here as well still, if you want to pipe in, but I'm not sure if I know you weren't feeling well. So is there anyone that would like to address this?
I mean, Mamta said it very beautifully in her presentation about having compassion and patience. Maybe Mamta, if you want to expand on that.
Yeah, thanks, Shalene, and thanks for that very thoughtful question. And I think that a lot of us here can relate to the feelings and things that you're experiencing as it relates to your own footprint and causing harm. Kindness and compassion is definitely something to hold for yourself and for your family in this regard. But I also just want to remind you, you potentially need the reminder of the carbon footprint associated with factory farming and how much you are already doing for the planet and for your family by abstaining from participating in those industries. So just want to be mindful of that. So it's not always helpful to compare to your neighbor, to the people around you, but what you are doing is already so much. And it is the fine balance between being part of a community and part of this world and not necessarily taking the ascetic or sadhu sattvi approach to life if you have obligations and you have things that you're committed, worldly things that you're committed to and attachments that make that choice difficult. I think that it's important for you to do the things just as much as you can do without it consuming you, because it's also important for your karmic accumulation also that you are keeping sound mind and sound body as well. So if you are constantly concerned or feeling even tortured about some of these things, then you're also not, you're accumulating those pops and those negative karmas as well. I'll stop there and see. I think Nirva or anyone else maybe wants to chime in here.
Yeah, no, Mamta, you actually really answered that question well. And I think that, when I read this response, I felt like, yeah, I also feel a lot of these things. And I think it's important to understand that chances are, if you are a vegan, you have a great deal of empathy for so many causes. Like every cause is a great cause. And, you're spending your time trying to make this world a better place. You're trying to do the right thing. It's like putting the world just on your shoulders, the entire world, and feeling that incredible sense of responsibility. But as Mamta said, know that what you're doing is a lot, and just what you stand for, the people that you meet, the people who will be motivated by you, will create ripple waves to so many different groups and societies and institutions. So you are doing great, and continue to keep finding creative solutions to all of the issues that you're working on. But just the fact that you wrote an email like this is incredibly brave, and shows to me that you're an incredibly empathetic person. And, it's those people that will change the world for the better.
That's really well said. Thank you, Mamta. Thank you, Nirva. So moving on, we only have a few more minutes. Pratik, you had some questions that were addressed directly to you, and you said that you'd be willing to speak to them. Can you just summarize what the question is and then provide us an answer?
Yeah, sure. So I think what Sukanya is trying to ask is, when I spoke about the karma theory and like a lot of different interactions that different philosophies had, and also given that you had a lot of appropriation, how do we put the karma doctrine, especially when it used to ostracize a lot of communities, how do you put that, the animal rights and ahiṃsā together? And my answer to that would be definitely, like I said, when we start talking about any philosophy, the ahiṃsā karma, I think it's really important to understand how it was developed. The lived experiences need to be taken into account of people even before we talk to them about veganism. Like someone spoke about the background of their family members, right? So it's important to understand that. It's also important to understand that eating animals and vegetarianism in India has also had, in addition to being a compassionate thing, non-violent thing, it's also been used in a lot of not good ways and evil ways. So we need to take that into account, and only then I think we can use that. And again, when one important part is, does that mean, I think the question is trying to ask is, does it mean that we should be excluding non-natives who are interested in learning the philosophy? And I think that's not the right approach anyways. We do need to be inclusive to everyone who needs to understand the philosophy, but it's also important for everyone who is trying to talk about that and take that stand, understand in what context and what lived experiences the rituals and this philosophy came from. So I think it's not about exclusion. It's more about not being unjust to someone while talking to them about the philosophy that we find interesting. So yeah, I guess that answers, and it was a good question.
You're muted, Hope.
Thank you. Sorry about that. So I think in our last moments, I would love to just have some last thoughts from the panelists. I know we didn't get to everyone's question. I'm sorry about that. Time is unfortunately close to finished, but I'd love to just have some final thoughts, wrap up thoughts from everyone. So Mamta, why don't you start?
Sure. Thanks, Hope. And thanks again for everyone spending your Saturday morning, afternoon with us. I just want to encourage you to keep in mind the tips that I shared. So kindness and compassion towards yourself and the people around you. Think about a sustainable approach to making this change if this is in your path. So if that looks like taking it slow, reducing your intake, I really encourage you to do that, and be bold and unapologetic, be very, very confident in who you are and what you stand for. And it doesn't have to be flashy. It doesn't have to be snarky. It just has to come from a place of where you truly believe it from your heart and from confidence. And if anyone would like to stay in touch, I'm very happy to do that. I can put my contact information in the chat.
Thank you, Mamta. And I'm sure I speak for all of you that if anyone does have follow-up questions, further thoughts along the line about a presentation specifically or general, you can get in touch with any of us. I know that we would all love to further the conversation beyond this moment. So Shaolin, any final thoughts from you?
Thank you for all the organizers. This was such a beautiful conference, and I hope that the thoughts and ideas that are shared here will continue forward and we'll be able to make a difference in our community. I think as Jains, we have such an important role in this world. The values that we've brought forth of ahiṃsā and truthfulness and so much else, there's a lot of power in those values. And if we continue to really work through our path in improving and bettering ourselves and our community through those values, there's so much good that we can share with the world. So I hope that everybody will continue to do so. So thank you for having me again.
Thank you, Shaolin. Let's hear from Pratik and then Nirva.
Hi. Yeah, I think it's really important to bear in mind that all of us need to move in a direction where the world is more just and the world is more fair and compassionate. And we have a lot of issues rising out of a lot of discrimination, a lot of harm to animals. I think all that we do, all the actions need to be aligned to further that cause of compassion and justice and scientific temperament and all these things, while we are reading anything, while we are interpreting anything. And yes, of course, we should keep building a community. If someone wants to stay in touch, feel free to. Yeah, thanks a lot.
Nirva?
Thanks, Hope. Thank you to everyone who attended and to this lively chat and to all the panelists and just to everybody that's part of this conference. And I really am looking forward to tomorrow as well. It's going to be fantastic. The thoughts that come to mind after hearing from everybody is that there's so many scholars that have thought so long and so hard about all of these issues. And we're so fortunate. I feel so grateful that we have this group of thought leaders that are really, working hard to fix that, or not fix, but bring that, reduce the gap between vegetarianism and veganism. And it is a pretty big gap. And I think that we're moving forward in that direction. But I really loved hearing from Mamta when she talked about doing it in a very compassionate way, in a vegan forward way, but in a realistically sustainable way too. So I think we're doing it. I think this is so inspirational. I have so much hope after just today from hearing from everybody. And, I think as Jains, don't forget that your role is so important, especially to publicly funded institutions, due to your ability to invoke the religious accommodation of meals at publicly funded institutions. So ask for it, because if enough of us ask for it, we'll get it. Thank you.